Good morning and welcome to another one of Drew's Book Reviews. So today's book is going to be The King's Blood. So this is the second book in the Dagger and the Coin series by Daniel Abraham. Series I must say I am thoroughly, absolutely enjoying. I just kind of want to start off with this really awesome quote from the book that I really liked. It says, "Wars are easier to start than end, and where they take you is rarely where you intended to go. It'll be better for all of us to just avoid it," which I think is a really awesome quote in the book. But of course, like most fantasy novels, the war is not avoided at all. So just to briefly summarize what's going on in this book, we'll start with Cithrin. So she is becoming ever more frustrated with having no control over the bank she started. Frustrated with just being the face and the voice of the bank, but getting absolutely no authority to actually make any decisions. So she's effectively been rendered as a figurehead. In the meantime, her steward, or the one who actually makes all the decisions, Pike, she is resentful that she's doing all the work while Cithrin gets all the credit as the figurehead and the voice of the bank. And so the rivalry between these two really kind of gets going as Cithrin plots to find a way to take back control of her branch of the Bank of Medine that she started. And so that's a really interesting point of development within the story. And I kind of like Cithrin's character, actually. She seems like a very intelligent, smart woman who really knows her stuff and but is struggling in the face of not being given credit, or feeling she's not being given enough credit for what she's done. And she knows that she can do so much better if she just had the restraints on her removed. So really interesting storyline on her and her struggle to be accepted as an equal amongst the rest of her banking counterparts and peers. Now we have Gedor Palianco. So he has basically been given the king's son, Prince Aster, to protect and to be his ward. And upon the king's untimely death, Gedor effectively becomes king as regent, as Prince Aster is not old enough to take the throne yet. So that really puts Gedor in an extremely powerful position within the kingdoms. And as we know from the previous novel, Gedor is the same one who burned an entire city to the ground in spite. So he is not only a very dangerous man, he has also now become one of the most powerful men in the world, effectively in position of king, and has full authority and control over everything. In the meantime, we have Kit, the master actor and former spider priest. He's quit the acting company and embarked on his own mission to seek out and kill the spider goddess, and he's enlisted Marcus's help. This is a really interesting aspect of the story, and I really wish there was more time spent on this, because I love the idea of going on this grand adventure to hunt out and kill a goddess. And I really wish there's more time and more focus spent on this story, and his storyline specifically. Now, that could come up in the next couple of books, perhaps, but I really hope it does, because this really is an interesting story that is being developed with that. And it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out. And then we have Dawson, who is one of the nobles of the kingdom, and he is struggling between his loyalty to his kingdom and country and where his loyalty is supposed to be, which is the leader of the country, which in this case is Gedor. He feels that Gedor has taken the country and put it under the influence or control of foreign spider priests. And so, while he is loyal to his country and loyal to the Prince Aster, he finds that he cannot continue to be loyal to Gedor himself. So Dawson has actually been put in charge of the armies of the land, but eventually he starts plotting to an eventual failed rebellion. And the result is there's this brief civil war, all hell breaks loose, and everything just gets crazy and insane. So really, really awesome to see how each one of these particular events establishes Getter as more powerful, more authority, and he's taking more control, and he's really kind of growing into his position as leader. Now, the interesting thing about whole Getter Peliankle thing that I'm finding really interesting is the fact that he, from my perspective at least, he's a tyrant. He is not a good leader at all, and yet the people of the kingdom and everything else, he's kind of have this growing myth and legend about him. There seems to be this split or divide on whether he's a good leader or not, but nobody's really acknowledging the fact that he's basically behaving like a tyrant. There seems to be this reluctance or this ignorance or this unwillingness to really see that in him. There are people that think, well, he's a good leader, he's someone that we need, he's bringing our country back to stability, he's going to make everything right. And then there's that other side, it's like, well, I don't really like the guy, but hey, go us, go. The patriotism is there. But there's no real acknowledgement that he has this very dangerous mindset where he will be easily provoked into making rash, terrible decisions, costing people a lot. I mean, he burned the city of Vidai. Like, the guy is just nuts, as far as I'm concerned. And yet there's no real acknowledgement by the populace and the citizenry in the country, or even the nobles. It's just a matter of typical nobles in rivalry. Well, I don't like him, or I'm siding with this person. And that's really interesting, and almost in a way kind of a scary thought, because sometimes we will see that within our own societies as well, where people will refuse to acknowledge the bad that our leaders do out of some kind of patriotism. Another thing I wanted to quickly touch on as well is these spider priests. These guys are creepy. So essentially they have this incredible power of persuasion. In a way, it almost reminds me of like when the Jedi used the Force to persuade people to their way of thinking. But they have this ability to manipulate truth simply by the words that they speak and use. And so people will be speaking or thinking, or they will tell people what exactly will happen. As an example of this, going back to the first book, there was this event where the caravan was being attacked by bandits. And Kit, who we didn't know at the time was one of the spider priests who had basically become an apostate, but he convinced these bandits that they couldn't harm them and that all their arrows would miss. And they couldn't harm them simply by speaking the words. And this completely shattered their confidence until they were safe again, which is an incredible power. But even beyond that, these spider priests, they literally have these little spiders living inside their blood. And so if you cut them and they literally bleed these spiders. It's really creepy, disturbing, and yet so cool and awesome. I have to say, I'm really enjoying this series. And I think this was a great book. It really kind of helps to establish Getter in his position of authority while being ward of effectively the prince or the king's blood. And I'm really looking forward to the next book, which I think is going to progress on and expand upon Getter's storyline, because the next book is called The Tyrant's Law. So if you want to know how this progresses, you want to know how the tyrant becomes a tyrant, if you want to know what he does as the Tyrant's Law, make sure you stay tuned for the next review. All in all, I'd say, Daniel Abraham, you are doing an awesome job. Keep it up. Really enjoying these books. And thanks again for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and comment below. And we'll see you next time on the next installment of Drew's Book Reviews. Thank you.